Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Okay, let us go ahead and start the chapter today. So yesterday, basically what we started is harmonic excitation to an undamped system, right? So we said that our equation of motion would be no damping term. And we said that we had a forcing function or excitation, okay, with excitation frequency omega, right? And then we were trying to obtain the response of this system subject to, let us say, some initial condition u and u dot 0. Okay, and then we found that in terms of these initial conditions, I can write my ut as u0 cos omega nt and then u dot 0, and I had this term here. Okay, and then there was another term which we said it was 1 by So the important thing to note here was that now my system had two frequencies, omega n and omega t here. Okay, this is the forcing response. Okay, so we said that our response has two parts now. One part is vibrating. So this part is vibrating with frequency omega n, and the other part is vibrating at the applied frequency, which is omega, right? Which is the same frequency as of the excitation. Okay, and these are called, the first part is called the transient vibration. Okay, and the second part is called steady state. Okay, steady state vibration, or sometimes it is also called the forced vibration because it is due to the forcing frequency. Okay, and basically in terms of response, we said that in any of the system, we said that here the transient vibration is actually, it has its amplitude constant. Okay, the total response was actually given something like this. Okay, transient vibration would have response, let us say for undamped case, something with a constant amplitude. Okay, and then steady state would be a different frequency, so that the total response that I would have would be sum of both. Okay, and not minding the drawing, this is somewhat it would look like. Okay, and we said that in reality, although we are considering here undamped vibration, okay, in reality there is nothing like an undamped vibration. So all the system would have some amount of damping, even if it's very small. So this is mostly of, like, theoretical interest, because transient vibration, what will happen, we would derive that expression today. It would have a term with e to the power minus zeta omega nt. Okay, so while this transient definition or the word might not be very clear at this point of time, we call it transient because it dies down with time in damped vibration. Okay, so we said that because this is what the initial vibration that dies down, and my total response actually converges to steady state response, we are going to turn our focus only on the steady state response. Okay, because that is the response that would be basically remain after a sufficient amount of time. Okay, and then we said that if that is the case, let me write my response as steady state response P naught by K 1 minus omega by omega n square sine omega t. Now if you look at it, we had this term here and this term here. This we said that P naught by K is nothing but the amplitude of the static deformation. Now you would ask me, what does it mean? I mean, amplitude of the static deformation. Static deformation has only one value. Well, not really. If you consider, it would have one value if you have a load that has one value. So it is going from 0 to P naught. And then if I ask you what is the load or the deformation corresponding to P naught, then you said that it is P naught by K if it was applied to a spring. However, if the load is varying like this, my static deformation would also be varying along with the applied load. Okay, UST would become whatever the load that is being applied divided by K, which is P naught sine omega t by K, and P naught by K is basically the peak value of the static deformation, okay, which we are going to write as UST naught. So this is basically UST naught times, I have another factor here, 1 minus omega by omega n square sine omega t. Now we basically try to draw the variation of this function here, okay, 1 by 1 minus omega by omega n square, and we saw that, let us draw the variation of 1 minus, okay. If you try to draw the variation of this function here, let us see how does it look like. Can I say when omega by omega n is less than 1, my ut would be in the same direction or with the same direction as sine omega t, right? Because this term here would be positive. Okay, so ut, let me write here as 1. Okay, this is positive, and ut same sine as sine omega t, this term here. Okay, and sine omega t, whatever the sine of sine omega t is the sine of P naught sine omega t. So my ut and P naught sine omega t, which was the pt here, they are called in phase. It means that if I'm applying load to this system in the right direction, my displacement is also happening in the right direction. Okay, and the second case would be when omega by omega n is actually greater than 1. In that case, this quantity here would be negative. Okay, and ut would have opposite sign. It would have opposite sign than pt. Okay, in that case, they are called out of phase. Okay, so it means that if I'm applying, so the load is actually like, periodic here, harmonic here, not in one direction. So if I apply any time the load is going in this direction, due to this harmonic load, the mass would move in this direction. And while it seems counterintuitive, remember that, try to imagine it not like a ramp loading, but here it is basically harmonic loading, which goes in positive and negative as well. So depending upon the property of the system, when you are going positive, the system might actually move to the negative direction. Okay, so if you try to plot this function here, which is basically 1. Okay, I know that for a very small, and let us say the horizontal axis is, let us say this is 0 here, this is 1, 2, 3 here. So on the horizontal direction, I'm plotting the frequency ratio. On the vertical direction, this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, and so on. Okay, so I know that when omega by omega n square is very, very small, the value of this quantity will converge to 1. Okay, and as omega by omega n increases, the value of this would increase. Similarly, when omega by omega n becomes infinity in the denominator, this value actually reduces to 0. Okay, and when omega by omega n is equal to 1, this actually becomes unbounded. So the variation of this function would look like something like this. Okay. All right. So this is the variation of 1 by 1 minus omega by omega n square. Now, these whatever we have discussed till now, positive, negative, what I can do, I can write my expression ut, which is nothing but ust naught 1 minus omega by omega n square times sine omega t. Okay, I can write it as, let us say, a simple u naught, which is ust times this factor here, times sine omega t minus phi. And we'll see what is that phi is. Okay, where u naught is ust naught times rd, and rd is this factor here. Okay, and phi basically is, now what I want, that phi with omega t should give me a value which is consistent with the observation that we have obtained here. That is, if let us say I use phi equal to 0 when omega by omega n is less than 1, and if it's 180 degree when omega by omega n is greater than 1, then what will happen? When you substitute phi equal to 0, you'll get this term as u naught sine omega t when omega by omega n is less than 1, and it would be omega t minus 180 degree, which would be basically minus sine phi, okay, when omega by omega n is greater than 1. So this is just to replicate whatever observation we had obtained here. All right, so this is just to make it consistent, and we do that because this is the same form that we have used throughout. Okay, now the phi here is called phase angle or phase difference. Okay, and it represents basically, in a layman term, I would say the delay, okay, delay or the trailing of displacement with respect to the applied force. So let us say if my force applied, which is the variation is sine omega t, if it's a 0, then we will look at what is the value of displacement, okay, and how far behind it is, and that is what basically this phase angle represents. For example, in this case, if I wanted to draw something like this here, okay, then let us say this is frequency ratio 0, 1, 2, 3, and these are the angles in the vertical direction 5, 0, 90 degree, 180 degree. So we said that when omega by omega n is less than 1, this is 0 degrees, and when it is greater than 1, it is 180 degree. Now you need to, now because the sine is being considered by the angle here, okay, phi equal to 0 and 180 degree, this quantity here in the RD is now basically mod. So RD is now always positive. Okay, now what is RD? RD is called deformation response factor. And it's a very important term. Okay, why is it important? Because RD, as you can see from this equation, is dynamic peak of the dynamic displacement by peak of the static displacement. All right, so I'll just write dynamic divided by static, and it represents, due to the dynamic characteristic of the structure, how much of the change in response would occur due to with respect to the static case. So it's a very important quantity that, let us say you had applied a load as as a static load, and if you apply the same load as a dynamic load, so it basically characterizes the dynamic effect with respect to the static effect on the any system. Okay, and basically this quantity that you see now, because I'm considering RD to be mod of 1 minus, this quantity would always be positive now. So initially we had drawn this function here, which could be negative, but when we draw RD like this, all you need to do is just take the absolute magnitude of this graph, which would look like something like, sorry, this graph is actually wrong here. I should do something like, let us say, it will start from the negative value of 1, and as it increases, what will happen? It will go to a value equal to 0. Okay, so at very large value of this one, it would be equal to this value here. It would just go here to something like this. Okay. Now, if you take the mod of the same quantity, and now I'm representing my RD as 1 by 1 minus omega by omega n square. Okay, it would look like something like this here. So all you need to do, or maybe I should delete this. Okay, so in this case, basically it would start again in the positive direction, this direction, and then it will again do something like this here. Okay, and this is 0, 1, let us say this is 2, this is 3, it would intersect at some point here. Okay, and this is 0, 1, 2, 3, this is my RD. Okay, let me just delete this here, it becomes more clear to you. Okay, so RD represents the amplification in the response or the reduction in the response because of the dynamic characteristic of the structure. Okay. Okay. Now one might ask, well, why am I drawing this graph? I mean, what is the utility of this graph? Where would I use this? So consider that omega n is nothing but k by m. And you have been asked to design a system. So you have been asked to provide the stiffness and the mass of the system so that the response of the system, okay, and I know that my deformation, when it becomes to a certain value, then the system fails. So I know the deformation at which the system fails. For example, you would have taken a course in concrete. You know that if the strain reaches to 0.0035, I assume my concrete to be failed. Okay, and if it's a steel, then if the strain reaches to, let us say, 12 to 15%, okay, I assume my steel material to be failed. So let us say in system, I know that when the displacement reaches these value, my system would fail. So I want to design system. So I want to provide K and M so that it does not reach this value under the dynamic excitation. Okay, so I would look at my RD value corresponding to this U naught, and I would say that, well, let us say this U naught correspond to some RD value, U static you already know. Okay, so that I am within this limit, I am operating within this limit. Okay, and accordingly then I can design my system by providing omega n, because remember, for the system to be safe, I can have my system in this range or I can have my system in this range. Okay, other application could be, let us say somebody comes and asks you like, my RD starts from 0, so dynamic amplification starts from 1 here, not 0, for omega by omega n starts from 1 here, right, and that it increases and then again it decreases after the value of omega by omega n, and at this point, which you can calculate it to be root 2. How do I calculate it to be root 2? Well, this is the point at which RD is equal to 1. So what I'm saying here, this is the point at which this is equal to 1. And if you solve this with appropriate sign, you can get my omega is equal to omega by omega n is equal to root 2. Okay, so then I ask you, well, there is a loading on my system. Okay, due to some excitation, let us say it's an earthquake excitation. Okay, or it's a ground excitation, which is now represented by this sinusoidal excitation. And I want my structure to be very safe. Okay, so what I would do, I would go ahead and design a system such that when the earthquake hits, my omega by omega n ratio for the structure, omega is for the earthquake and omega n for the structure, is such that this value is actually less than 1, right? What do you see here? After omega by omega n exceeds the value of root 2, my RD is less than 1. It means my dynamic displacement, okay, becomes smaller than the static deformation after omega by omega n exceeds root 2. So I would design a system like that so that it falls in this zone, so that it is even better than the static one. Okay, and this is basically the concept behind a technology called seismic isolation. Okay, broadly. Okay, so we design a system such that we provide a stiffness so that overall omega n is so small that it falls in this zone here. Okay, and then my dynamic displacement is smaller than the static displacement. Okay, so there are a lot of practical application of these type of charts. Okay, and we have only done a undamped system right now. For damped system, we'll see. Remember in the first class I asked you, I posed you a lot of questions. Some of those questions would be answered today. Okay, there was a question that there was a bridge failure basically due to wind, and then I asked you if I had to save this bridge against resonance, what would I do? I'll answer that question today. Okay, so basically time variation of dynamic displacement I'm writing as peak dynamic displacement times omega t minus phi, which can also be written as static times Rd times sine omega t minus phi. So Rd is a measure of, it is called displacement response factor, and this is measure of the dynamic effect on the structure, amplification or reduction. It could be either, as you can see from this graph. And phi basically represents that with respect to the applied force, how far behind or how far ahead my displacement is. So what is the lag between those two quantities? Okay. Is this clear to all of you? Anybody has any doubt up to this point that we just discussed?
Sir, Ram Prasad here.
Yeah.
RD is always a positive value or is it always a positive value?
The way we have defined RD here, right? We have taken the mod of it is always positive, right?
Oh.
This is just a matter of definition. For example, if I tell you my static deformation is positive, let us say 10 centimeter, but my dynamic deformation, because it is oscillating, it could be in opposite direction, right? Negative, like yes, let us say 50. Okay, so it is just a matter of definition that I've said that RD would always be positive, because I just want to know, with respect to static, because the static is also oscillating, isn't it? And yes, dynamic is also oscillating. So here for the undamped system, I have taken mod to say that would be always positive, and then the direction basically would be taken care of this angle phi. Okay, but we'll see for the damped case, this RD would be under root some quantity. Okay, which would again be positive. Root of some quantity is always positive. Okay, so even for the damped case, it would always be positive. So this is just a matter of definition. It is not like an actual physical quantity that can be measured. You are calculating this. Okay, so we are saying that RD would always be positive. It is the ratio of the peak dynamic amplitude divided by the peak static amplitude. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So let us go ahead to another case. We said that let us talk about a specific case here. A case when omega by omega n is equal to 1, and then see what happens. Remember that we said that resonant frequency is defined as a frequency at which the response is maximum. Okay, so don't always automatically assume that it is omega by omega and at which the response will be maximum. It might not be. We will see that later. Okay, so we define resonant frequency as the frequency at which response is maximum. Okay, this is a better definition of the resonant frequency than saying that it is the omega is equal to omega n. This is for a very specific case this would be true. For many cases, this is the definition that you should conceptualize. Okay, that resonant frequency is the frequency at which response is maximum. And the response could be anything, right? Response could be displacement, but response could also be velocity, response could also be acceleration, it could also be force. So it is not like when I ask you that what do you mean that response is maximum, which response? Okay, you should know, like with respect to what response the resonant frequency is defined. So right now we are only considering displacement here. Okay, now when omega is equal to omega n, remember for particular solution we had assumed that, okay, this should be cos omega t. Okay, now we cannot assume that anymore, right? So if you go back, remember that we had discussed, yeah, in here we had discussed the particular solution and the complementary solution, right? So if you look at here, particular solution was this and the complementary solution is this. However, when omega is equal to omega n, then sine omega n is also here. Okay, and the same term is part of the complementary solution as well. So this is not, the particular solution is not a unique solution anymore. So I cannot simply assume my particular solution to be omega c omega nt, because this is the part of complementary solution now. So this is not any unique solution of the equation of motion. Okay, remember that complementary solution we are assuming as this. Sorry, this is not cos here, actually this is sine. So this is not a unique solution anymore. So what happens in those cases where the roots are same, so that you get omega by omega n, the solution is actually represented now as c times time times sine omega nt. Okay, and you can substitute in this equation here, okay, to get the value of the parameter, and this is equal to p of t, which is p naught sine omega t. Okay, so you can substitute it here and you can get the value of the parameter c. So, okay, you will get up of t as, okay, I'm just going to write down the final answer here. Okay, this is for you to actually do it on your own. Omega n t times cos omega nt. Okay, I should get something like sine omega nt. Okay, so this solution won't be valid actually anymore. It would be t c of t times cos of omega nt. Okay, solution takes of this form. Okay, so that when I substitute in this equation, I get this solution here. Okay, and you can do that calculation. You can substitute here, double differentiate it and multiply with these term. Okay, to compare and find the value of c. Okay, so the particular solution is this. Okay, complementary solution is still the same. Okay, so the complementary solution, you can again write it. Okay, let us say I write down the complementary solution as a sine a cos omega nt plus sine of omega nt. Okay, so the total solution for the resonance case would become ct, or let me just write it here, so omega nt plus this quantity here. Now if you use the initial condition and let us assume that these conditions are 0, okay, you can find out the value of these constants a and b, and you can write down the value of ut as this is k here. Okay, so this is the displacement. This is the displacement response for case when you have omega equal to omega n. Okay, and if you try to plot this, okay, and you can use any plotting, like you can use MATLAB to plot this one, or you can use any other software. You will see that RD initially that we had obtained as 1 minus omega by omega n square, it is not valid anymore because now I get this response. There is no RD here. Okay. So according to the previous solution, RD was this and it became infinity as soon as omega by omega n equal to 1. However, what we see from the actual solution, okay, that when omega is equal to omega n, the response does not become unbounded immediately. Like, it does not goes to infinity immediately. If you plot this, what you will basically see, let me draw two lines here. Okay, it actually varies. The ut is actually would vary like this. So the amplitude would keep on increasing. Okay, I will call this as ut. Okay, and this is t. So it keeps on increasing. Okay, and the amplitude becomes unbounded over a period of time. It does not become like, suddenly. And that's, if you remember that example that we had, the failure of the suspension bridge where the wind was blowing, what did you see? The amplitude, as like, load was being applied. Okay, so the wind load was being applied and the amplitude kept on increasing. It, like, it does not, because it did not become suddenly infinity. Okay, the amplitude, the force was being applied, the, let us say, the wind force, and the amplitude kept on increasing, and after a certain amount of time, what happened? It led to the failure of the system. Okay, let us say that corresponds to certain value of ut. Okay, if that ut corresponds to the failure of the system, that is the point at which the resonance would lead to the failure of the system. All right, now this solution, although it is explaining how the resonance is happening and how does the response is actually, it would vary with respect to time. Okay, in case of resonance, know that in reality what will happen, as soon as the amplitude starts to increase, okay, the structure would start to deteriorate, right? For example, concrete, if you apply, let us say, even 5 inches of deformation, or even like, 1 inch of deformation on concrete, let us say it's a concrete column, the concrete starts to break, right? It starts to crack, and that crack leads to change in the stiffness of the concrete column or the beam or any type of structure. Okay, and in case of steel, okay, yielding material, for example, steel, aluminum, any other material, it would yield after a certain displacement. Okay, so either if the concrete is cracking or the steel is yielding, what happens in that case? It is not linear anymore. Okay, let us say this is concrete and let us say this is steel. Okay, so either, and let us say this is force here and this is displacement. Okay, and as the displacement is increasing, initially it was here, the displacement, then it went here and then here. For concrete, it starts, due to the deterioration of concrete, it starts to change the stiffness at each and every point. For steel, it starts changing stiffness after it yields. Okay, now due to this, what happens? The stiffness of the system K actually changes. Okay, and if K would change, what will happen to omega n? This would also change. Okay, so let us say omega by K equal to K by omega n would also change. Now remember, initially there was a resonance because the applied frequency was omega n. Now applied frequency omega is equal to omega 1 was initially, but when omega n changes, my applied frequency is still the same. Okay, it does not happen that wind, if it is blowing, or like, if there is a vibration due to machine foundation or anything like that, then the applied frequency was changed. So applied frequency was still the same. Initially it matched with the natural frequency of the system and the resonance started to occur. But as it led to the damage to the system due to increasing amplitude, the stiffness of the system would change, so the frequency would change. Okay, and the structure would come out of the resonance. Okay, because now omega n is now omega equal to not omega n anymore after damage or yield. Okay, Now, if it's if it's like, let us say if it happens after a large value of u naught, okay, for example, in case of steel, if this happens after large value of u naught, then that is not useful because my structure would have already got damaged till that point. However, for concrete, you will see as the structure starts to get damaged, the stiffness would start to decrease. Like here, initially it was this, then the stiffness was this, then the stiffness was this. Okay, and then it would come out of the resonance. Okay, so while it is theoretically it is easy to imagine that if omega equal to omega n, it would lead to infinite response in the system. In reality, the mechanism somewhat differ, and this is actually what happens. Okay, all of you would have read about resonance. Okay, but this is just a demonstration of how the resonance actually affects a structure and what happens in a structure during the resonance. Okay, is this clear to all of you? Any question up to this point?
Sir, what does bonded response exactly?
Bounded response. There is no bounded response here. What I'm saying that theoretically the response that we had obtained, it starts to increase and the response start to become unbounded because amplitude is increasing with time. However, as the displacement, let us say it increases from u1 here to u2 here to u3 here, after a certain amount of time actually structure would fail or yield, right? And that is the point at which the stiffness would change and omega would not be equal to omega n anymore. So the system or the structure would come out of the resonance. Okay, that is what I'm trying to explain here. Okay, so here it is unbounded response. Okay, we will see when it becomes bounded. For even for theoretical consideration, okay, assumption that there is no damping in the system, response would always be unbounded, but only theoretically. In reality, we would see what happens. Okay. Anybody has any other doubt? Okay. So as I said, undamped is basically an assumption here. Most of the system would have some amount of damping, and that's why it is important to study damped harmonic excitation. Okay. And when I say damped, I mean that I'm using viscously damped system. Just an assumption. Viscously damped system means my force damping is Cu dot.